Who's out here on the dock?
Hey there.
Jamie's back to see how the fish you put in are doing.
So right now we're getting ready just to do some water quality measurements. We're basically looking at dissolved oxygen. We're going to look at some alkalinity, hardness, our pH. So just some basics here for just checking on your water chemistry.
Nice.
Temperature, we are concerned about it, but we do know it's going to be warmer. It's July and it's in North Carolina right now, so it's going to be pretty hot.
So if we put in the aeration, does that kind of equal out the temperature, or does it just help with oxygen?
It definitely moderates it. Think of the aerators as like they're mixing continuously. So what you'll get is an average mean temperature, and it's intended to eliminate the thermocline. The thermocline is that line where you see a dramatic temperature shift.
Yeah, we went swimming the other day and it was like, I don't know.
Your waist down.
Yeah, it was hot, and then it was like freezing cold. It was like, what's going on?
So the idea is by getting rid of that thermocline, you're eliminating those layers.
No! Layers! Onions have layers.
And that minimizes your risk for having turnovers. I'm sure you've heard of turnover before. This time of year in particular, when the water temperature gets hot, and what happens is when it gets hot and you get that thermocline in deep ponds, and then you get these cold afternoon rain events. So what happens, that cold water hits the surface and pushes down on that warm water and causes an inversion. Anytime you have dramatic changes in either water chemistry or water temperature, it can cause enough stress for fish that they don't survive. Especially when you're dealing with a fingerling fish that, you know, it's just like a little baby, can't handle and a lot of stress.
Now we're doing, when we do the aeration, so since I've been slacking, do we want to put that off now until it gets cooler weather?
So yeah, the ideal thing, because we got fingerlings in here, so their oxygen demand is fairly small compared to, you know, and we've got one feeder on right now. As we start ramping up our management activities, that's where having the aeration in here gives us a little more buffering capacity. It gives us a kind of an insurance policy. We still need to make sure we're controlling our nutrient loads and nuisance algae blooms and that sort of thing, but the aeration gives us a lot more buffering capacity, and it keeps things a lot more even temperatured, so we don't have those heavy fluctuations. It does keep the water temperature cooler, so for, you know, swimming it's a lot more comfortable, but also by increasing the overall oxygen in the system, you get better aerobic bacteria production, and aerobic bacteria are good. They help eat and break down any excess organics, and it just helps keep the water cleaner. Anytime we have a swimming situation, we want to have aeration in there just to help with water quality.
Okay.
Right now we've kind of like evened out a little bit. I mean, it's gonna fluctuate just barely, but we're right around like 6.8, 6.9 milligrams per liter. So, and not bad right now.
And if you'll move that probe up and down, just kind of like up and down a little bit, it'll kind of stabilize. But yeah, you can see
about 28 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty warm in here. But,
right.
You know, it's a big system, so we're not as terribly warm.
They have places they can go. We put those trenches in and rocks and all that kind of stuff.
And you're about how far down right now, Jamie?
I'm about 12 inches down.
Yeah. So surface water, I mean, with it this hot, so every 10 degrees, the water temperature increases. Its capacity, the fish's oxygen demand triples, and the water's capacity to hold oxygen decreases.
Okay.
So, you know, that's why hot water doesn't hold oxygen as long. So the fact that we're seeing, you know, around 7 right now at the surface is pretty good. It just also shows you that we don't have a ton of biomass in here yet. We just stocked it with fingerlings, got a lot of surface area. There's no nuisance. You can look across this thing. We don't have any nuisance algae blooms or vegetation that would cause strain on that oxygen demand. So some perspective, our fish kills happen pretty much when it drops below 3. That's critical point. 3 milligrams per liter is a critical point, and that's when we've had some readings here in the last couple of weeks on ponds that have had fish kills. These aren't ponds that we manage. These are ponds that we get called about. Right. And the one we went to on Friday of last week and pulled 8 contractor bags of dead fish from.
Oh, Mitch, this is brutal.
The oxygen ranged from 0.5 milligrams per liter to 2. And it had after a major rain event, it had a lot of filamentous algae and some planktonic algae, and that rain event caused it to crash. And when it crashed, all the oxygen left, and boom. And the troubling part about that is that when folks don't have aeration, you pretty much just have to kind of see it through. It'll correct itself, but you're pretty much having to walk it through, and at that point,
You can't just come home and throw fish in the bowl.
right. There's a lot more to it.
Expect them to live. You'll be flushing Speedy down the toilet.
That's right. Yeah, and a lot of cash out down the toilet too.
Absolutely.
Feeding the fish. I don't have any fish. You do now. I call that one Shrek and the other Fiona. That Shrek is a rascally devil. Get your...
Jamie's going to check your alkalinity and hardness too. They kind of work hand in hand. Alkalinity, hardness is kind of a measure of our mineral content.
Right.
Alkalinity is kind of our buffering capacity. Let me use is the color wheel in there?
We're right around like 7-ish, not too bad. So ideal pH for a fishery system is about 7.2. We definitely we want to try to stay pretty close to that. When you start getting more acidic, there's kind of that relationship with like high acidity and the dissolved oxygen levels as well.
With pH, gotcha. And then you basically match up the colors in the little window box there.
Oh, it's like one of those little kaleidoscopes.
You hold it up to the sun, and then you can you just basically roll it around. So, yeah, we're probably, I'd say you're about right. Here, hold on. You hold that?
Yeah.
You got the power now.
Flip this around. How many drops did you put in?
I did 5.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually a little closer to 8, 7.5 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
So probably, this in the afternoon, we're a little closer to 8 this afternoon. Probably if we took this in the morning,
right,
it might be close to 7, a little bit different.
So it's going to fluctuate.
Just a little bit. If we see like next spring or over the winter, the best thing you can do if you have a pH test kit, and I can show you the test strips that we use. I might even have a bottle in the truck. If you test it in the morning, right after daylight, and then in the evening, you'll see the variation. And what that really tells us is, hey, do we need to add lime? Because lime is a buffering agent, just like it helps your grass grow. Same thing in the pond. We got liquid lime that we can use now, but that'll help, buffer it out, make sure it's not fluctuating a lot. Okay. So if you want to, Jamie, get me
a sample for
Hardness.
Yep.
I just fill both of those up.
Trade off.
Has anybody fell off into the pond doing this?
Jamie's.
I have entered a body of water multiple times.
She dropped her phone. Yeah. Was that like right after we gave you your phone? You dropped it in the pond, or was that your personal phone?
This is actually my personal phone. So I'd maybe been working here for like a month, and we were in a massive lake, and it bounced off the front end of the boat into the water. And it was April, and I got in and I found it.
Nice.
Yeah.
When you're a collegiate swimmer, you you dive in the pond.
You just dive in, you don't care. Just get it done.
I was just glad I found it, But we've all had scenarios where we've ended up in the water before.
Sometimes it's just easier to get in there. Go 15 mils for the
kayaks have flipped.
For the alcohol.
Yeah.
Why is it called the rabbit box?
Because Rabbit is one of Harry Carroll, who's our facilities coordinator there and takes care of the fish tanks and everything. He doesn't go out in the field as much as he used to, but what happens when you have a lot of folks, if people borrow things and it never returns back to you, and his nickname is Rabbit. He's been called Rabbit his entire life, and so he put Rabbit box on there so we
know it's his box.
He always knows who stole his box, his testing box, if he needs it. But we use a lot more test strips now when you've got as many folks out in the field doing this. Those reagents, you're looking for trends. Mostly that's what we're trying to find is when we're sampling on a monthly basis. If something does go wrong, we can look back at that data and go, okay, well, our alkalinity, hardness, and pH stayed consistent for the last 6 months, so you know, where else can we turn? But it's just a great way to kind of know, hey, it's, you know, our alkalinity was 20 for 6 months, and then all of a sudden it shot up to, you know, 50. Like,
right, so something's happened.
You know,
right.
Was there a rain event? You know, what flushed in there? And these are by a multiple of 8. So for each drop, we basically look to see it turn color.
Yep, there's 2.
You want to see it completely change. So swirl it again. So how many was that?
4.
5.
Oh.
5. So yeah, your alkalinity is actually probably, that last one was probably a little bit overkill. So let's just say 4. So you're at 32. So you're right in the sweet spot for this area. Good. It's actually good. So now we'll check your hardness. Usually hardness and alkalinity are pretty close together as far as the readings.
Right.
They're very much related to one another. We'll check the hardness real quick. And again, hardness, the harder we are, you know, if we hit that kind of sweet spot, I would guess that this is going to be 30 to 45 ppm. Okay. Give it one more, so I bet that's 45. Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So again, your water chemistry right now is just fine for our area, consistent with everything. If anything, it is a situation where you're probably above what a lot of people's alkalinity hardness are here. So that's good. I even noticed, like, you've got some planktonic activity in the water. The sediment's dropped. You know, your visibility, it's not gin clear. We don't want gin clear. Gin clear means something's wrong and your fish are growing. But to not have, and I'll knock on wood, to not have major like planktonic algae blooms and things like that right now is a great sign. Means you got good water. You know, we've been blessed with several rain events here in the last few weeks, so that's bringing some fresh surface water in.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so far everything's good to go. I think next.
Yeah, it was a little clear before the rain. What was it, yesterday or the day before it came through?
Yeah.
It was a little clear, but it gets like this for a couple days after.
I was gonna say the best testament to, you know, the lime being effective is the fact that it's settling out after a rain event. You know, if it mixes, that's one thing. Right. But the fact that it is settling out afterwards is a good thing. Yeah.
Cool. And you guys usually do do you do different visits for different size ponds, or it just depends?
Yeah, I mean, you know, with fingerlings out here right now, and just because, you know, we got the fish in, probably starting next spring is when we'd come out on a more monthly basis. Gotcha. Like from March to October. Probably want to be out here once a month. Okay. Just checking that, because that's when we're really going to start seeing, you know, more happen. You know, when you start fishing in October, you're going to see some brim that are easily hanging size.
So we're going to dig a sediment pond at the inlet.
Okay. Just so you can muck it out on a regular basis.
Yeah, instead of having it all dump in here, and we need some dirt for that hill anyway.
Right.
So, is there anything we should grow in there, plants or fish species, or should we just let it be whatever?
Yeah, we would treat it like a stormwater pond and just add
that makes sense.
Iris and pickerel weed. You know, attractive plants, they're going to kind of shade it and act as filtration as well. Right. But they'll also make it a little more attractive.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously you've got your 4-bay berm right there with your riprap, so that's going to also slow down some of that material. But that's what I would do, is just put stormwater plants in there. Okay. Let them kind of establish around the edge, so it disguises it a little bit. Right. There's probably no real reason to try to grow anything in it, just because, I mean, you can always throw some ghost shrimp or something up there and just see if you can get that.
One thing I would recommend, if you do establish that, like those native like stormwater plants like that up there, I mean, I can assume you have a lot of deer out here.
A bunch.
So
yeah.
I would think about doing some kind of like protective covering or netting over those, because those deer.
The deer's gonna eat them up.
To go after them and eat them up.
The iris probably not as much, and the bulrush, but yeah, they love pickerel weed. Yeah. They'll eat the crap.
I put 200 pounds in my feeder 2 weeks ago. It was empty. I just checked. Yeah.
set your evening feeding to like 16 seconds.
Okay.
I mean, with them coming over here like that, dude,
They're ready.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There will always be some critic in the back, shouting his opinion like a fact. Oh, but look who's fallen and getting up again. Won't you listen? Will you hear it from a friend? Here I am, holding up a mirror, hoping you might see yourself a little clearer, beyond a shadow of a doubt. From where I'm standing now, I see the fight in you.